Meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And then Heather, if you wouldn't mind taking roll call.
Commissioner Devon.
Here.
Commissioner Corbin.
Here.
Commissioner Wire.
Here.
Commissioner Shaw. Mayor Lindsay.
Here. You have before you the agenda for this evening.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Seeing no appearances or acknowledgements, is there anything anyone wants to discuss from the consent calendar?
I do have a question, I guess, that the taxi cab license, I think that's the first I've seen. Is there any other active applications that we have on that? Tell me,
Not that I'm aware of.
You know, we haven't had a taxi cab in town and that since,
that's it,
Tufty passed away,
Yeah.
you know. So,
yeah. So this is an annual deal, right?
uh,
Or is it just?
Heather saying yes. Yes.
Okay,
so. Anything else? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Saying no unfinished business under new business. Approved TIF number 6, development agreement with the Lake Area Improvement Corporation. Jameson, do you want to address that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In May of last year, the city created TIF District Number 6. This is an amount not to exceed 2.95 million. This would be a fee that is going to the Lake Area Improvement Corporation for properties along the industrial park. The intent would be that those costs would go towards helping to pay for a early learning childcare facility, which is a project we've also talked about considerably. After the district is created and the project plan is approved, the next step is a development agreement. It's what is before you today. Toby Morris of Colliers drafted this. It's been reviewed by myself and David as well. It matches up with the $2.59 million maximum amount, which was approved, which was set in the TIF created last year, and staff recommends approval.
Questions or comments? It's something we've discussed, so if not, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve, TIF number 6 development agreement with Lake Area Improvement Corporation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 2, approve engineering services agreement. Amendment number 1, Northwest 9th Street and Union Avenue reconstruction project. Ryan, do you want to address that first, or Jameson?
Right, get that.
So this engineering services amendment is going to be with Banner Associates for the Northwest 9th Street Union Avenue reconstruction project. Our original contract with Banner was just for construction administration and construction observation, staking, and then construction plan of record. At that time, we didn't have any plans to do any redesign or anything like that. However, when Banner came onto the project, it was obvious that there was some value engineering that could be done, some changes that could be made to, make the project go better. And then we had identified some deficiencies in some of the stuff, right? So with that in mind, Banner Associates looked at some of that, value engineering and such like that, and the project redesign, and then the project was not able to be completed in the amount of time that we thought. The project ran over both this year, and then we'll extend it next year as well. So we right now have some services that have been provided outside of the contract scope. And then we also have some estimated engineering services to complete the project in 2024. So to date, the engineering services that are outside of the contract scope amount to $133,305.30. That includes both extra construction administration as well as the extra construction observation. We anticipate engineering services needed in 2024 to the amount of $64,081. So that's total amendment to the services agreement would be $197,386.30. That's in addition to the original contract amount of $224,800. And I did some math, the total project is about 3.6 million. So this would put that engineering services at about 11%. This is reimbursable cost, reimbursable by SRF.
11% common, Brian. I mean, what would a normal engineering cost be in a project like this?
Yeah, that's in the ballpark. Where we'd be looking. We did also have the additional, Houston's design agreement. I think that was around 125,000. So taking that into account, the total engineering services are high. However, some of that is due again to the delays in the project. And we didn't anticipate needing this much construction.
Other questions? Comments?
We do know that it's eligible or this is for sure eligible for the SRF funding then.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve engineering services amendment number 1, Northwest Ninth Street, Union Avenue reconstruction.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Number 3, discussion and action related to assessing liquid damages on RD Phase 2A project. And that, Jameson, do you want to start or Ryan?
Let Ryan take that.
Ryan?
Thank you. So in the agenda packet is a letter from Banner Associates to the city indicating that as this project is nearing final completion and final payment, we reviewed the contract and the project status. And within that letter are the Phase 2A contract dates and then a Phase 2A discussion, a little review of the project, if you will. Just kind of summarizes the project. It's a pretty complex issue, but this is a pretty good summary. And kind of takes us where we're at today. The interim completion date on this project was October 1st of 2021. Substantial completion was changed to December 8th of 2022. That action was taken in December of 2022. The commission at that time had determined that it would be appropriate to change the interim and the substantial completion dates in the project to correspond with the documented dates that the work was actually completed. But we did not do any change to the final completion date. And we had deemed that we would begin a working day count for assessment of liquidated damages when the weather was appropriate in the 2023 season, which was in early May. We had done a winter shutdown agreement with the contractor Homey Incorporated at that time. So the final completion date of November 15th, 2022 is the date we're looking at in order to calculate liquidated damages. The Phase 2A project met substantial completion again on December 8th, and the contractor was given a punch list of items to complete. That winter shutdown allowed them a pause in the day count, and then the work resumed on May 1st. So in the letter, there's option A and option B. Option A would be to take no action on adjustment of final contract dates and assess liquidated damages for the working days that accumulated beyond the final completion date. That would be 93 days. Those 93 days they're calendar based. They're not considering any potential project delays or weather delays or anything. So it's 93 days after that November 15th, 2022 date. to the actual completion date of September 11th. Option B would be to negotiate the final completion date, change that final completion date to result in a value of liquidated damage that would cover actual expenses incurred by the city. And then, I guess it's not really in here, but option C would be then to change the final completion date to September 11th, 2023. That would result in no liquidated damages. Weston is here with Banner. We both be available to take any questions or comments.
From what I read through it, that we did have additional costs of $27,990. And so, and then the maximum in that you had provided was $79,050. So I guess in my mind, I think, we should possibly be looking at a number between those two figures. Would that be correct? Because then that would cover our additional costs that we had to pay for engineering that were documented.
Yeah, I should mention too that my office had some additional hours too. They don't,
Right.
it's not a substantial amount. It comes to about $2,060.10 is what we had calculated on extra work this construction season. So we would probably want to add that in to the banner amounts.
Which would give me a figure, and that's why I didn't hit it right, or what do you got, $31,060 is actual cost, and that, that we had, so I'll leave that open to the commission and that, but in my mind, and that, I think we should be covering our additional actual costs and that we did incur because of the delay.
That's where I'm at. We don't wanna get a reputation being a hostile town to do business in, because the work wasn't completed when we said it would, it did create extra financial burden for us.
The documented numbers. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. And the contractor, we had worked with them all summer. I think, I think it's reasonable to recoup those costs. The contractor could have completed the work much quicker than they did. There was some pushback, I guess you'd say, from one of their subcontractors who was delayed this and kind of pushed this along further than it needed to. We were kind of debating whether a lot of our punch list items were legitimate things. They didn't feel like they were things that needed repair. We feel like they were very much items that needed repair. So, the contractor and their subcontractor, I don't think they have anyone to blame but themselves for the delay in the 2023 season. It's certainly extended beyond a reasonable amount of time due to their unwillingness, I guess you'd say, to complete the work.
And the 2023 season was probably one of the nicest ones we had in the last few years to really get things done.
Yeah, and a lot of these things were what I would call minor things, cracks in concrete, some displaced sidewalk panels that were creating trip hazards. These were things that were obvious deficiencies, and we just had a hard time getting them to come here and do the work. Ultimately, they did. There is a longer than probably usual warranty list, I would say, on this project, but it's also a huge project, so that's to be expected.
Yeah, I guess my opinion is, I think we're being more than fair in this regard, especially with that critical part of town. And so I would go along with that.
Someone want to make that into a motion?
Do you want it at a dollar amount, or you wanted to recoup our costs so that they can figure out the total?
I
would
think for the
suggest
most part, from what I've read,
recoup the
the
cost.
dollars are figured already, right? Or is there additional?
There might be some miscellaneous.
I think it'd be best to recoup the costs and then, so a change order or some formal document will have to be prepared and brought before the commission for approval. And so then that can have the actual dollar amount with it.
You're gonna have to approve an actual dollar amount at some point. And it's going to have to be clear that they're liquidated damages as well. Doesn't have to be in front of you tonight, but that's going to happen at some point.
So I'll make a motion to, go after recoup the costs of the liquidated damages in the
Phase 2A.
phase 2A project, with Holly Construction.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 4, accept Austrine Landscaping quote for retaining wall at Northwest Third Street and Catherine Avenue. And Ryan, you or Weston want to address that?
Sure. Yeah, you have included in the agenda packet is a quote or an estimate from Austrian Landscaping, the amount of $7,850 for retaining wall. This item goes kind of way back. In fact, it goes back a couple of years. The design on the project had the sidewalk ramp going to the corner of Third and Catherine Avenue, and then it was just tying into the existing sidewalk. During the construction project, we meaning Banner and the city had determined that that was gonna be a very steep slope. We were afraid that wasn't gonna be navigatable by folks in handicap wheelchair. And so we had desired to go back and make that ADA accessible. That required us to remove additional sidewalk and then come up with an updated plan sheet that would allow that 8.33% maximum slope on the ADA ramp and then 5% on the running slope. In doing that, we had determined that we would have to go back on private property and do a lot of grading. We had gotten an easement from the property owner to do that. However, when the contractor came to do the work, it was very apparent that it was going to damage a tree quite badly. They were getting into the roots. The grading went quite a ways back on the property. I don't think the property owner would be happy with that. They had expressed to us that they thought a retaining wall would be a better idea. I happen to agree with that. I think that this will create, this will leave them, with a nice yard that they can mow and maintain. This will leave us with an ADA compliant sidewalk and will allow hopefully to save that tree, which was a critical component for the property owner's sunset easement. So we'd be looking at this additional $7,850. The city can submit this for reimbursement to rural development. We can't do that at this time, but we can submit it, I think, at the end of the project or in front of it. So there's no guarantee that this would be reimbursed back, but there's definitely a possibility.
There's also a doorway that comes out of the house right there too. It's kind of a main entrance.
Yeah.
And so that would have made that significantly different for people coming in and out of the house and that as well. So,
Was this one of our sidewalk property owners last week?
It is. So this would be the north-south sidewalk that's running along Catherine Avenue. They'll be responsible to put in the east-west portion of that lot. And so this retaining wall would then help them with that future plan as well. Otherwise, they'd probably be looking at really cutting into their slope on that side.
And we're paying the cost.
Correct. Yes.
One note I'll add is that generally this would come through as a change order for the project. In this case, the contractor's price was a lot higher than we thought was reasonable, so we are just electing to work directly with the subcontractor, Austrine Landscaping, and to save some money here for our taxpayers. But again, as Ryan mentioned, this is something that we would be able to submit for reimbursement and let them decide.
Who was the original contractor on this?
J&J.
other questions?
I'll make a motion to accept the Austrian landscaping quote for retaining wall at Northwest Third and Catherine.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Number 5, thank you, gentlemen. Authorize staff to apply for the MLBPA Youth Development Foundation grant for Flynn Field Lights. James, you wanna do it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The ball field lights at Flynn Field are reaching their end of life, and so we need to start thinking ahead as to how to replace those and how to pay for that replacement. One grant that's been identified is through the Major League Baseball Youth Development Foundation, and that could provide up to 50% of funds in this project. We received an estimate from one supplier for a few different options that involve either retrofit lights or new lights, and then no labor or with labor. And we spoke with the park board about this at the last meeting, and their recommendation was to move forward with the new lights only, rather than the lights with the labor. We'd like to reach out to East River in town to see if they'd be willing to help us with the installation. And if that doesn't work out, we can certainly consider other options. But at this point, the materials only looks to be in the range of $230,000 to $250,000. We can and do plan on looking for other estimates from other suppliers as well, but that's one to give you an idea of the ballpark price on the light, pun very much intended. So on the upper end, if we receive this grant, that would provide $125,000 towards the lights and leaving us with $125,000 in equal share. I believe Mike had indicated to me that we have 50,000 in a reserve that could be used towards this. Yeah, come on up, Mike. So we would have to be setting more funds aside. The grant has a rolling deadline, so we could apply for it any time. The intent would be to have installation of the new light in the spring of 2025, which does line up well, since there's community partners in town that are looking to secure some larger events for us to host at that field in 2025. And so it would be ideal if we can get those lights installed by that time. Mike, what I miss?
Just to brief everybody, the current lighting that we have in all of our sports complexes is no longer in existence. So what we'll have to do is we're gonna take all of, if we decide to go with this way, is take the lights down from Flynn, put them in storage. So then when we have bad fixtures at the block bin or the ice rinks or anything, we can have fixtures to put up to try to reuse them. I mean, there's probably close to 60 lights down there, so we can keep them ballparks lit with minimal cost. Flynn Field's kind of the gem of all the sports plexes in the city, so that we want to try to utilize in making that as nice as we can, with the college utilizing it and the high school and the Legion and the amateur team in that aspect. So.
And then to start budgeting to replace some of these lights over time.
Every year we have a reserve that's called ballpark reserve, and we try to put $10,000 to $20,000 a year in it. And it's good that we drained that reserve not that long ago to build the new backstops at Bachman because of a safety concern, to try to raise them up to eliminate the foul balls. So we're building it back, and we currently have 50,000 in it. There's always something that can spend money on it if we decide to. That's the unfortunate thing. So.
Are we collaborating with DSU at all on this or not?
As of right now, we are not in discussion with DSU about it.
Other questions?
What's the expectancy of the new, or life expectancy of the?
25 to 30 years, I think, is what the warranty was, is if we go with all new LED fixtures. It's gonna save a lot on electric bill too, compared to what that old halogen bulbs are and stuff, that aspect.
We can use that number to put a schedule together to plan to replace.
And some of them ones are, they're probably only. Like the Teener Diamond is probably close to 10 years old. The Bachman Complex lights are probably close to 20 years old. But we run into a storm damage when the wind comes up and blows, it sometimes breaks them. But we can't get parts for them anymore because that light comes out of business. So we can get bulbs, and that's about it for it. The resistors and the capacitors and all that stuff inside of them no longer. So we've been piecing them together. Flynn probably has 4 lights out right now that are not repairable. So. And then I should note one thing, that the Madison Baseball Association is spearheading applying for this grant, because it's it's not for municipalities, it's for associations, but we're gonna have to try to match if they obtain the grant. Well, the park board wanted to move forward with matching the grant for the funds.
So basically what we're doing right now is just authorizing the staff to apply for the grant and see if we get it and then making decisions on paying for them later down the road.
Well, I'm glad Mike brought that up because that is an important distinction. So you're saying that the baseball association would be applying for this?
Yes,
So the city just needs to be prepared that if they get that, you need to have that conversation of whether you're willing to pay for the other share.
so we'd probably have to come up with approximately $70,000. That isn't on the reserve. We could spend the 50 out of the reserve and then 70,000 would have to come from supplemental or something.
In 25, right?
Yeah.
Or when do you expect the grant to?
I would suspect
Come
with the
back
way
with-
everything moves, it'd probably be the spring of 2025, is what I'm guessing. It'd be great if it was in 2024, but I'm suspecting probably, you know.
Gives us time to budget.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking too, you know. Puts us into our next budget cycle, so.
And there might be a cheaper vendor, because our electric department does have some contacts with field lighting too, so we'll look into that, but this gets us steered in the right direction and moving forward with the grant process.
I agree.
Make a motion to authorize staff to apply for MLB and LVPA Youth Development Foundation grant for Flint Field Lights.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All
Thank
those in favor, stand by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks, Mike. Number 6, award bid number 944 for chemicals. And Jameson, do you want to address that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A month or so ago, we had brought the chemical bid for the year to you, and there was one schedule for lime, which we did not feel we received as competitive pricing for as we could. So you took action to reject that, and we re-advertised, and we are more comfortable with the pricing that we received here. So we recommend approval on the lime bid of unit price $220 to Pete Line and Sons out of Rapid City.
Questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Do we have any public comment?
No.
No public comment? Okay, under announcements, notice in that a vacancy for 2 city commissioners that will be up for re-election or election. Petitions can be begin being circulated January 26th and must be returned by February 23rd, 5 p.m. And our next regular commission meeting will be February 5th, 2024, 5:30 p.m. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Third. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.